On the way home, Jack asked me what I thought about the last couple of months. What did you think of the last couple months? You must have walked around in a fog of sorts. I noticed the lost expression on your face several times and could tell you didn't have a clue what was going on. It was extraordinary, all the memories rushing back, and then those times I didn't remember a thing, but I could have stayed forever. I feel like it was over too fast, and I didn't want to leave. Still, in the back of my mind, I keep dealing with this nagging anxiety. Is this a dream? When is it going to end? How can any of it be real? I shook my head as I gazed out the front of Louis. I'm conflicted, phasing between here and my reality back on Earth. Sometimes, I'm like a scrap of paper torn in half. Honestly, I don't know how much more I can take. What do you mean? Where did that come from? I know that I am going to wake up at some point and I'm going to back on the Earth. Honestly, I would love to forget myself here in Sierra. This is such an incredible life. Yet, I understand I need to go back and tell the story. Therefore, I can't let go of the Earth, or my kids, or family, as in my mind and heart I'm still battling for their salvation. At the same time, I would love to stay here and have nothing to go back to. Jeff, I'm sorry about that. I can only imagine the turmoil you are suffering. I should hope after your experiences here, you would be more determined to encourage your children and others back on Earth to turn to Christ. It's not just about a story. It's about eternity. So, tell them what you have seen. Tell them about the hope, the joy, and the peace you found here, and how it differs from what the world offers, a world that's quickly disintegrating. Tell them about it. Yes, you're going back. But you're going back with a message. Hold on to your message when you are feeling double-minded. I still haven't figured out where you fit into all of this. Please forgive me for asking now, but you know, I don't remember too much about you. Yet, you have been such a big part of everything I have done here. You're the biggest mystery. You're everywhere. How's that? Let me try to explain, he said as his voice changed to another language I did not understand. He said, "Never mind, I can't understand a thing you're saying. I guess that's information for another time. Thanks for helping me through this." "No problem, my friend." I was in the dark where Jack was concerned. He was an enigma. That didn't trouble me because it seemed more of a curiosity than anything else. I paused, thought of my kids again, and smiled. It was so unbelievable. At the moment, I didn't know what to do or how to think. Jack, sensing that I was still deep in thought, changed the subject. "I love spending time with George and Beth. I feel like I'm one of the family." Before I could respond to him, he got a peculiar look on his face, as if to tell me something new. "Hey, I would like to show you something cool, something blue, and something remarkable," he murmured to Louis. With that, a blue flash accompanied by another, we were sitting in a blue sky. It was blue sky all around us as far as I could see. I saw 4 suns, 3 on the one side and 1 colossal sun on the other. Jack said, the chemical composition of the surrounding space, within the suns, suppresses their brightness, and causes the area between them to produce a perfect blue sky. Unlike on Earth where the sky is blue because of reflection, this is chemically induced. Jack paused and looked around. "I recently found this place. I call it Blue Heaven. There's only one planet within this group of stars. It's a gigantic water planet with no surface land mass." Jack told Louis to take us to the other end. Once we got there, Jack explained, the 3 smaller suns and the water planet orbit the one larger sun. Just like he said, it was all water. It appeared the same size as one of the smaller suns within the group. Water vapor was escaping its gravity, creating a line of clouds, massive cumulus clouds in space. A considerable section of them were streaming away from the planet. We entered the atmosphere, which had a steady rainfall. The sunlight created rainbows on all sides of us. I could see lightning striking everywhere. Jack opened the exit hatch to Louis. I panicked. "Don't worry, Jeff. Within the exosphere, the atmosphere is breathable. Isn't it thrilling and weird at the same time?" "Yeah, it's beautiful." I stuck my head out of the exit. The air was humid with the intense smell of dusty rain. It smelled like the first train, mingled with a dusty road, after a long hot dry spell. Lightning struck near me as I was taking in a deep breath. I pulled my head back in immediately and returned to the bridge with my hair standing straight up. Jack took one look at me and turned away. I was positive he was laughing. We hovered in place for a while. Afterward, Jack asked Louis to drop to the surface. We traveled across the vast ocean, staying at least 200 feet above the water to evade the 100-foot waves crashing with such unimaginable force below us. Jack stopped Louis above the waves. He walked to the hatch and opened it. He turned, looked at me, and fell backward out of the craft. I ran to the hatch, afraid he might injure himself as he plunged into the heavy seas below, but I forgot he was an immortal. I watched for a while and wanted so badly to jump. He swam to the top of the waves and slid down into the depths. I lost it when I saw him standing atop a huge wave, riding it across the surface. He looked up at me and waved. I could only imagine the excitement. Well, I couldn't take it any longer. I jumped. Once I hit the water, I saw nothing but waves as they crashed over me. It was all I could do to keep breathing. Jack came and stood beside me. "Jeff," he shouted, "where's your faith?" I reached up for a hand. He grabbed my hand and raised me above the waves. The ocean felt like solid ground below me while he held on. It was so cool riding on top of the waves. Every other wave, Jack let go of me, letting me body surf down to the belly of the wave. Then, he came and grabbed my arm, and we ascended to the top of the next wave. While on top of a high wave, I called for Louis, and he came down low enough for us to climb back into the craft. Well, we didn't actually climb. Jack grabbed a hold of the scruff of my shirt and pants and tossed me back into Louis, causing me to tumble across the deck. He climbed back in with no trouble. Once back in Louis, he said, "How exhilarating." It wore me out, but I agreed with him. There were so many things Jack, or any immortal could do compared to me. I was so envious. The immortal abilities were mind-bending, and although I have seen enough for myself, it still stretched my imagination beyond my capacity to comprehend. As we traveled across the surface, we came upon an area of smooth seas where the clouds were open above. Beams of sunlight were breaking through to the water below. Jack whispered again to Louis. Louis dropped into the water. I hadn't tried that before, taking Louis into an ocean. Within 2 minutes, 2 whale sharks passed the front of Louis. We came across an underwater mountain, the top of which was only 50 feet underwater. I guess that was what Jack meant by no surface land. Its peak was flat and overgrown with a substantial kelp bed. Other kinds of water plants flourished on its sides, down into the depths. We couldn't see the bottom as it was too dark. We came upon several land masses right below the surface. I speculated if the water keeps floating into space, it will not be long before islands appear. There were many areas where the earth was only 30 feet below the ocean's surface. Some practically had beaches. Various kinds of colorful coral and seaweed were growing on all the exposed rocks. We watched a massive school of herring pass by. It must have been 50 miles long. Predatory fish were darting in and out of the school. A group of them looked like yellow and bluefin tuna. One of the bluefin had to weigh over 1,000 pounds. It assailed the glass dome of Louis, right above my head. It hit, stopped, and didn't move for a minute. I suppose it stunned itself. We continued our underwater sightseeing until an enormous squid came after us. He couldn't hurt us, but we didn't want him hanging on to Louis when we left the planet. He was quick and almost caught us until I told Louis to get going. Afterward, we returned to the surface and followed the trail of clouds escaping the planet, streaming for thousands of miles until they turned into a vapor, a mist, and evaporated into the blue sky. Jeff, isn't it fantastic? No one knows it's here other than me, now you. No sooner did he say so when an enormous platform sailed by containing buildings surrounded by fields under a dome. It looked like a covered cake platter. It was circular, and 2 miles in diameter. What a massive undertaking it must have been to build and launch such a platform into space. As we got closer, we noticed the grounds were wheat fields. It was a space-traveling wheat farm. Interestingly, there was a large oak tree right in the middle of the expansive field. It was massive. I wondered to myself if it wasn't a phenomenon with wheat fields. Does every wheat field have its resident oak tree? Jack said, it looks like a farmer is experimenting. Apparently, he has discovered my new place. I'll have to inquire. He turned to the front panel on the bridge. Louis, please contact that craft below us. A voice came over the intercom. Hello, can I help you? Jack answered, Hi. How are you? And what are you doing? We are conducting tests on a new type of wheat. It's a strain we expect will withstand constant daylight without burning up. Why not conduct your experiment on one of the many planets with constant daylight? Well, sir, it's easier to control the amount of light the wheat fields receive on this craft and much harder to do so on the surface of a planet. Okay. Thanks for answering. Welcome, and good day to you, sir. Good day, my friend. Although Sierra contained 136 habitable planets, such was not the actual case. Thousands of planets in Sierra can sustain life, and people can live on them. A few people do, but most of those planets had longer or shorter days, months, and years. A couple hundred of them were without night. There were 6 popular planets in the system where sunset and sunrise took place within a half hour to an hour of each other. Those planets had suns perfectly placed on opposite sides of the planet to bring about that effect. Instead of circling a sun, those planets sat and spun in one place between 2 suns. There were 3 other planets where it was always sunset as the suns followed the horizon in a 360-degree rotation. Those planets circled in such a way that only the top half, northern hemisphere, faced the sun. When visiting their north poles, you would experience sunset from every direction throughout its rotation. One side, the bottom side, was constant darkness with sub-zero temperatures. The top side of the planets ranged from a consistent 80 to 95 degrees. There are thousands of other planets somewhere in between, with longer or shorter days or nights, or months, and years. Throughout the universe, the basis for establishing whether a planet was habitable was if it met all the same time elements as Earth, such as 24-hour day, 360-day year. Each habitable planet identified a location, a zone which coordinated its time with Jerusalem. They erected a city or monument on that spot. We base all the time zones, around the planet, on the one particular spot. Even though all the habitable planets in Sierra were of different size, the orbit and angle had to compensate for the same times and seasons consistent with the Earth. However, there were different adjustments for leap year so all of them could come into agreement with each other. Commerce was one of those cities or sites on the planet which matched Jerusalem time. After the brief conversation with the other craft, Jack said, I tried to know all the current events in Sierra. It's what I do here. It's what you do here too. Eventually, I would like to get involved with the commitments I'm expected to be providing here. All right, when we get back, let's figure out how to achieve that, but not at this moment. Before long, another dome-shaped craft appeared. It was the size of 20 city blocks. Hundreds of people were inside, lounging and roaming around. There appeared to be a wide walkway all around inside the dome. It had a hotel in the center. The ship looked like a resort, with inviting swimming pools at both ends. Palm trees and colorful bushes lined all the walkways. I thought it looked like paradise. A group of people saw us. They came to the edge of the dome and waved. We went down to the outside hall where the side windows were, so they could see us wave back. Given the expression on Jack's face, I could tell it perplexed him. It was hard to hold back the laugh. Jack believed he was the only person who knew about this place, apparently not. In all the surrounding space, we came across 2 separate craft within 15 minutes of each other. Both were of similar type and in near proximity to one another. What were the odds? I looked at the craft and at Jack. I assume they built both crafts on transit, correct? Yes, most transportation vehicles are built on transit. Jack looked at me as if he perceived how I would react by the next thing he said. Many of their components are made by one or another industrial complex on the planet factory. He stared at me. Wait for it. I know he mentioned factory for a reason. Immediately, I caught a craving. I shouted, "Let's go to factory. I want to go there now." Factory, again no imagination for naming places, was the center of manufacturing and processing in Sierra. Pretty much anything made, except for handmade items, AI, and transportation vehicles came from factory. Most of the food we ate was processed there. The place was a regular destination in my dreams, especially the city of industry. The city was over 100 square miles of factories, showrooms, and offices. I loved the ice cream factories there. After each tour, they offered you a good-sized bowl of their newest flavor. It was an advertising ploy, but it worked for me. Afterward, you had to fill out a survey on unique aspects of the new flavor. It could take the ice cream factories 2 years to create a new flavor, so you might fill out the same survey several times for each flavor. Well, I would, anyhow. 2 years might seem a long time. If desired, the company could generate a new flavor every few seconds. From the beginning of Sierra, citizens knew we could do anything instantly. Quick was not always the best way. Syrians understood the best and most desirable accomplishments in life are accomplishments we love spending our time doing or creating. That was not always the case throughout the universe. There were 2 types of humans, mortals, and immortals. There was a further grouping of immortals rarely mentioned by most of the inhabitants of Sierra. Those groups were the techs and free spirits. Techs, like the Watchers, live like mortals here in Sierra. They purposely depend on appliances, furniture, supermarkets, anything built by a machine or mortal. A chair, for example, was a technological item. Someone or some machine designed and built it. Techs are people who like the race, compared to others who like the finish line. Free spirits, although no immortal likes being called a free spirit, are immortals who like the finish line. They might live between heaven and Jerusalem. If they required anything, they simply spoke it into existence, no machinery or technology involved. Molecules were at their command. Of course, no immortal was 100% tech or free spirit. We base the name calling on one's propensity to live one way over the other. Each was a preferred lifestyle. We went straight to the Manila Ice Cream Factory, one of my favorite places in the city of industry. I gave them a recipe I borrowed for an ice cream bar called the 1880. It was one of my favorites as a kid. They added it to their product line. The recipe made us best friends. Fortunately for me, a tour was just starting. We walked around with the tour guide for an hour. I got a hat and a t-shirt. Both had sizable pictures of ice cream cones on them. Jack kept nudging me along as I wanted to stop and watch each machine and specific process in the building. I wanted to talk with any person, or AI, operating any and every apparatus. The workforce, throughout the Planet Factory, was predominantly specials. The other small minority of people were college students trying to earn extra money. Kids were not obligated to work while attending school. Yet, 3 days were available during the week in which one might choose to work. Many did so to earn extra money. Frequently, some of them came to appreciate factory work and stay on after college, often becoming a supervisor or a position higher in the chain of command. Again, we were often left behind by the tour group because there was so much to see. I didn't mind, but Jack did. There he goes pushing me again, and I'm growing tired of him doing that. I wanted to see it all. Next time I'll go by myself. Jack. Don't you have something else to do? What? What's wrong? Never mind. Stop pushing me. Eventually, we wrapped up our tour, and chose a seat in the factory's parlor, where they offered a bowl of ice cream with the expected survey. I suppose I inhaled too much ice cream because I was feeling it. I was stuffed. When they found out I was there, they offered me a box of 1880 ice cream bars. Thankfully, Louis had a fridge in the galley. Otherwise, I would have eaten the entire dozen right away. No way would I waste them. The city of industry was only one of thousands of manufacturing cities. There were larger ones where meat and produce are processed. The largest factory on the planet was the power supply factory in the City of Power. I recall it was also one of my favorite places to tour. It was the factory that made fusion modules and energy cells, which powered everything in Sierra. The fusion modules were small 4x4 by 2-inch cases containing a miniature nuclear fusion reactor. The small reactor dismantled or melted and drew the energy out of a single grain of sand or salt. Between the case and the reactor was a powerful magnetic field, which contained the controlled explosion or controlled disintegration of each atom from the fuel particle, sand or salt. The field itself looked like a dab of honey. It was a significant breakthrough when scientists figured out gravity was like a liquid. The heavier it was, the more solid it became. That tiny dab of honey felt like 30 pounds in your hand. The fusion was so controlled, and cleanly burned up, it left no noticeable nuclear waste. Then there were the energy cells. The cells were used to power homes, appliances, lighting, heating, air conditioning, and anything which fell within a specific power category. The fundamental systems in one of my homes could run for 6 months on a single cell. When the cell ran low, it was replaced by a new one, and the old one turned in for recharging, with no limit to the number of charges. Central systems incorporate heating and cooling, perhaps a water heater if needed. Other appliances and electrical type items used smaller cells for power. A stove or fridge can run 2 years on a single small energy cell. Power was never an issue in Sierra. Transport vehicles ran on the fusion modules and could operate up to 2 months to a year on a single grain of sand. It depended on how many patterns each vehicle had to create. Most businesses and factories used the fusion modules since they required a considerable amount of energy to operate. Depending on the size of the user, a feeder for the module may hold up to hundreds of millions of grains of fuel, again sand or salt. If I neglected to mention, sand or salt were the most common elements used for fuel for the modules. Whole planets had surfaces composed of sand. Most of the factories used up to 10,000 grains per day. Large rooms had multiple banks of modules, with feeders, powering different sections of each building and its machinery. Not only were the modules heavy compared to their size, they also vibrated in a circular motion in your hand. It was an odd feeling and hard to hold on to them. Well, after eating too much ice cream, I was in no condition to undertake another tour. It would take more than 100 years of tours to see all of factory, with so many places to see, each as exciting as the last. I did ask Jack for more information regarding the modules, and when he responded, he spoke in a foreign language. Oh well, each factory offers tours to the public and field trips for all schools throughout Sierra. It was a fascinating place, merging the old and the new. There was no reason to change anything if it worked. Besides, it was incredible seeing all the machines in operation. At the end of the day, I thought, it has been a long 3 months. I was ready to go home.